Hello mathematicians! Today we're going to be learning about whole numbers, more specifically how to divide by 3-digit numbers. In this video we will get a remainder for our answers, but we'll also learn how to take that remainder and write it as a fraction. To get us started, we have 627 divided by 250. Now, before we begin solving this, we are going to write it using long division. That means that 627 goes on the inside since it's our dividend, and 250 goes on the outside since that's our divisor. First, we're going to see how many times 250 goes into 6. And well, 250 times 0 is 0, and 250 times 1 is 250, and that's too large. So now we're going to see how many times 250 goes into 62. And for the same reason, it does not go into 62 because 250 times 1 is too large. So then we'd have to result to 250 times 0. So we're then going to see how many times 250 goes into 627. And it goes into 627 2 times. And that's because 250 times 2 is equal to 500. And that's the closest we could get without passing our value. So we're going to write our 500 underneath our 627. And then we're going to take these two values and subtract to see if we have a remainder. So 627 minus 500 is equal to 127. And now that's our remainder. So we're going to write this out as a mixed number. We know that 250 goes into 627 2 whole times. So 2 is going to be our whole number and our mixed number. We know that we have a remainder of 127, so that's going to be our numerator when we set up our mixed number, okay? Because that's how much we have left over, and our denominator is always our divisor because that's what we're dividing by, and that's what it's out of. So we have 127 out of 250 left over. So 627 divided by 250 equals to 2, and 127 out of 250, all right? We're not able to simplify this fraction, but whenever we are, we do simplify. So let's do our next example now. Our next example is 2040 divided by 480. So we're going to set this up using long division, and that means that 2040 goes on the inside since that's our dividend, and 480 goes on the outside since that's our divisor. We're going to see how many times 480 goes into 2, and well, it doesn't because 480 times 0 is equal to 0, and 480 times 1 is equal to 480, and that's too large. So now we're going to see if it goes into 20, and for the same reason, it does not go into 20. And then we're going to see if it goes into 204. And for that same reason, it does not go into 204 because 480 times 1 is 480, and that's too large. And now we're going to see if it goes into 2040. And it does go into 2040. It goes into 2040 4 times, and that's because 480 times 4 is equal to 1,920, and that's as close as we could get without passing this number. So we're going to take our two values and we are going to subtract them to see what our remainder is. And 2040 minus 1,920 is equal to 120. So we know that 480 goes into 2040 4 whole times. So 4 is going to be our whole number and our mixed number. Then we know we have a remainder of 120, and that remainder goes in our numerator because that's how much we have left over. And then our denominator is always our divisor, which is 480, and that's because we're dividing by 480. So that's our denominator. Now our answer is 4 and 120 out of 480, but we can simplify this fraction. And that's because we could divide both 120 and 480 by 120. Remember, whatever you do to the numerator, you have to do to the denominator to keep this fraction equivalent. So if we divide them both by 120, we end up with 1/4. And that's because 120 divided by 120 is equal to 1, and 480 divided by 120 is equal to 4. So that's our final answer. 2040 divided by 480 is equal to 4 and 1/4. Alright? So that's it for dividing by a 3-digit number with a remainder that we write as a fraction. Alright?